Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to our expenses webinar, highlighting the Expenses Work Center, insights, and other new features coming in September 2026. Thank you for attending. For our agenda today, I'm going to give you a quick overview of what to expect in today's webinar and fill you in on the Cardinal Upgrade project. I'm then going to turn it over to Angela Ward, one of our wonderful training leads, who will show you the fresh new look for Cardinal Financials, walk you through the new Expenses Work Center, and preview some additional enhancements in the expenses functional area. Dan Walsh, a member of our great training team, will then preview the Employee Expenses Dashboard, available via the new Financial Insights functionality. We'll provide opportunities throughout the webinar for you to ask questions, and we'll wrap up the session with some next steps to help you prepare for the upgrade. If you have agency-specific questions, please enter a help desk ticket, and someone from our team will respond to your inquiry. On a similar note, if you have requests for additional enhancements beyond what you see today, please enter a help desk ticket to ensure your request is captured. These requests will be reviewed after we go live and stabilize on the upgraded system. In this webinar, we are featuring enhancements to the expenses functional area as a result of the Cardinal upgrade. There are a lot of changes, I'll give you that, but if we don't discuss a particular Cardinal function, it is most likely unchanged as part of the upgrade. Agency users will not have access to a training environment to preview the upgraded system. However, we are updating all job aids and other training materials, and they will be made available to you prior to the upgrade. Retaking training is not required, although you are certainly welcome to consider that. We hope by the end of this presentation, you'll feel like you are more familiar than maybe you are now. So before I turn it over to Angela, let me just fill you in a bit about Cardinal Upgrade. The Cardinal team is enhancing both financials and HCM, upgrading these applications to the latest PeopleSoft releases. We started the project in September 2025, and we plan to go live with the upgraded system on September 8th, 2026. The upgrade includes numerous enhancements aimed at improving the user experience and overall system functionality. Our summer webinars are designed to help you become familiar with the many new features of the upgrade. Now, one of the frequent questions we have been receiving during these webinars is, will I still have access to my favorites? Well, generally the answer to this question is no. Homepage personalizations and my favorites will automatically be removed as part of the upgrade. This is because in the upgraded environment, existing personalizations and favorites may be linked to pages or menu items that no longer exist. But good news, we do plan to send a comm out to all users with instructions for recreating favorites in the upgraded system. You'll want to take a screenshot of your existing personalizations and favorites to be prepared. But again, we'll put all this in our upcoming communication. And more good news, stay tuned for Angela's WorkCenter presentation. There is so much included in the WorkCenter, you may not even feel a need to recreate your favorites. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Angela.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Angela Ward, and I am the lead Cardinal trainer for expenses. Thank you for taking the time to attend today's webinar to see and hear how the Cardinal upgrade will impact expenses. I think by the end of today's webinar, you will be glad you came. In case you didn't know, Cardinal Financials overall is getting a fresh new look. Hopefully, you saw some of our communications and videos that shared the adage of out with the old and in with the new. Financials currently has a heavy text layout, lengthy menu lists with nested folders, and often involves excessive scrolls, hovers, and clicks. But the upgrade will change all of that. The Cardinal upgrade, as you can see from this image, will have a clean, modern look with simplified tile-based navigation, which puts you just one click away from many of the key tasks that you perform daily. We are also introducing WorkCenters. Work centers are designed to create a one-stop location to complete most of your daily tasks. Let's take a few moments to watch a video that will provide information about the Cardinal Financial's Work Centers. This video will feature Kate, who is a voucher processor. The benefits that she will highlight applies to all of the Cardinal Financial Work Centers, and yes, including expenses. So with that said, let's watch the video.
Meet Kate. She's a voucher processor. And probably just like you, Kate has to go to a number of different pages in Cardinal to complete her daily work.
It would be so nice to have one place to go to access the tasks I need to do today. I probably get even more work done.
Guess what, Kate? We are introducing Cardinal WorkCenters, a centralized hub for completing your daily tasks. WorkCenters reduce navigation time and improve productivity. You can review action items that contain counts, so you know how many require attention. Apply flexible filters, complete tasks, and run reports and queries all in one place. Yes, you heard right, all in one place. Starting from the Cardinal Financials homepage, let's take a look at the Accounts Payable, or AP, WorkCenter tile and go through one of Kate's daily tasks.
As a voucher processor, one of my daily tasks is entering vouchers. This includes searching for the supplier, entering the voucher, and finally, monitoring my voucher and others for errors.
Let's take on those tasks, Kate. Again, start by clicking the AP WorkCenter tile. Using the navigation panel on the left, open the Links section. From here, click the Vouchers folder. Since we first need to search for suppliers, let's scroll down a bit to the Review Suppliers page to review supplier information. After completing your review, you'll be ready to enter the voucher. To do so, refer back to the Vouchers folder. Click the Regular Entry page. Add any needed information and click Save. This will submit your voucher for processing. Now, Kate can complete her last task, which is monitoring vouchers. Scroll up to My Work and click Budget Check Errors under Voucher Exceptions. As well, monitor your submitted vouchers by clicking Vouchers Submitted for Approval. Kate can also access key AP WorkCenter queries and reports. For example, she can run the Voucher on Payment Hold query to ensure no vouchers have a payment hold. And she can run the Prompt Pay report to verify her agency's vouchers are paid on time.
Thanks, narrator. WorkCenters really can bring my tasks into one workplace.
Exactly, and those benefits apply for each of Cardinal Financial's configured WorkCenters, including GL, AP, EX, AR, Billing, Procurement, Projects, and Contracts, which again are located on the Cardinal Financial's homepage and display based on your security roles. You can find everything you need to know and more about all of the financial work centers in the job aid titled Overview of the Cardinal Financial Work Centers, located on the Cardinal website. Cardinal Financial Work Centers, your one-stop shop to get your tasks done.
Okay, as noted in the video, the Work Center does bring together items that require attention and provides easy access to frequently used pages, queries, and reports. Work centers increase efficiency and save time, and who couldn't use a few extra minutes in their day? The Expenses Work Center is the central hub for users with the Expenses Employee and Expenses Approver roles. This slide provides a screenshot of the Expenses Work Center. It includes some callouts of the different sections with a high-level description of each. This information is included for your reference. I will cover these sections in more detail when I go through my demo, which will be coming up shortly. Work centers also contain two filtering options, which allow you to adjust the data that displays in the Work Center by using default and temporary filters. Default filters are available in the navigation panel, and when they are updated, they impact what displays in the Work Center each time you access it. Default filters remain in place until you make additional updates to them. Temporary filters are located on the transaction panel, and they allow you to refine data for information that displays in that panel. Some examples include things like sorting by business unit, submission date, or employee ID or name, to name a few. These filters do not save, so they would have to be reset each time. The job aid that was mentioned in the video, the overview of the Cardinal Financials WorkCenters, includes details about setting up default and temporary filters, and that will be available to assist you upon go live. Now we'll spend a few minutes reviewing some new features for expenses that will be coming with the upgrade. These additional enhancements include updates to the travel authorization page, significant updates to the expense report entry pages, a new approvals tile that replaces today's work list functionality, a new delegations tile for approvers to enter and manage the delegation of their approval authority. And for our VDOT users, we are introducing the proxy process. Let's take a moment to review each of these in a little more detail. So I will start with the travel authorization enhancements. While this page is not widely used, we want to make sure you're aware of the changes. This slide shows an image of the updated travel authorizations page, which has a more intuitive structure. The new features for this page include the addition of the travel from and travel to fields, as well as a trip duration field, which updates based on the dates that are entered. The Quick Start menu has been removed, and those options are now displayed as buttons. So let's talk about the expense report. This is a page that we all use. The expense report page, as I have noted, has received a significant facelift. Currently, the header and expense lines are on one page. With the upgrade, the header and lines now display on two separate pages. This slide is a screenshot of the upgraded expense report header page, which includes some callouts. Related actions, you'll see that as a callout, more actions menu, as well as the expense report actions drop-down menu. Each of these will be reviewed during my live demo, so stay tuned for more. Now, this screenshot is an example of the expense report entry page. And as you can see, this is very different than what we have today. A couple of things that I'll call out here include the expense report number is now created once an expense line is added, or if you copy the expense report from a travel authorization or another expense report, that expense report number is generated immediately. So at the top of this slide, I know it's a little small to see, but you guys will see it in the system. You will see that expense report number is generated right at the beginning. The second item called out on this slide in this field on the left of the slide is the copy feature. Copying expense lines is a significant time saver, and now accessing this feature is easier. Again, I will cover these in more detail when I walk through my demo of the expense report page. Next up is with the upgrade, we will have two places where you will be able to approve transactions. One is a new approvals tile that replaces today's work list functionality. All transactions that go through workflow will display here, and you will be able to review and approve those transactions after accessing this tile. Transactions that do not go through workflow will not display on this page. As you see on this slide, I know it's a little tiny here, but this particular approver has a mix of transactions. They have some journals, some expenses, some vouchers. So that approvers page now is where all of those approvals will route to. The second place that approvers will be able to review and approve transactions is through the EX WorkCenter. This means that if you're already doing work in that particular work center, you can access, review, and approve expense transactions while you're in the work center. So you don't have to navigate back to the approvals tile. And again, in this example, this particular employee has both journals and vouchers. Those particular work centers, you would be able to approve from those as well. So again, those are based on your particular security. Next is the delegations tile. So delegation of approval authority will now be managed through this new tile, and it is available on your computer or, as you see here, on your mobile device. When you click this tile, you will see 3 additional tiles as displayed here. These 3 tiles allow approvers to create and manage delegation requests. As part of my demo, we will discuss these in a little more detail, and I will demonstrate the process for creating a delegation request. And last but not least, for our VDOT users, this is specifically for VDOT employees only. There is an enhancement where employees now must be set up as a self-proxy and or must have a designated proxy to enter and process expense transactions. VDOT users should all be aware of this change. However, if you have questions, please contact your financial accounting manager. This process provides better controls and tracking for auditing purposes, and it also aligns the statewide and VDOT processes to be consistent. Now that I've covered the overview of the key features and we've talked a little bit about the WorkCenters, now I want to go into my live demonstration. Hopefully you're excited to see this. Now, a couple of things I want to do before we go into the demo. I want to call out 3 key things for you to keep in mind. First of all, please note that we are using test data in our training environment. When I log in, you're going to notice that there's a green cardinal bird. Remember that this demo is not training, but it is meant to highlight the key changes and let you see some of those in advance of us going live with the Cardinal Upgrade. We are also, as Dana has mentioned, we're creating and or updating detailed job aids that will provide the step-by-step that will serve as your go-to resource upon go live. So with that, give me a moment to log into Cardinal and share my screen. We are now on the new Cardinal Financials homepage. I did enlarge this a little bit so that it would be easier for you all to see. What you notice here immediately is that clean, modern tile layout. If you use Cardinal HCM, you're going to be familiar with this layout. These tiles and the tiles that display once you log in will vary based on user security roles. I also want to take a moment to call out in the upper right-hand corner, you see this icon that looks like a compass. It is called the nav bar. So I'm going to click the nav bar. And you see some other options display. I'm going to click the menu option. And here, when I click the menu option, here are some familiar pages, some things that look familiar to today's world. And this is essentially like the main menu you have in the current version of Cardinal Financials, with your sub-menus and pages that are organized the same way. So even with the new tile functionality, you will still be able to use navigation to access pages, queries, and reports, just as you do today. Be sure to utilize the job aids and videos that will be available to you upon go live to assist with your transition to the new overall layout of Cardinal Financials, along with some of the other great new features that allow you to customize some options, such as recently visited, alphabetizing the menu, adding tiles, and more. Today, though, I'm focused specifically on the key expense-related changes. I'm going to come out of that menu. And now for this part of the demonstration, I have logged in as an expenses employee. A little bit later, I'll log in as an approver. So what I will do is I'm going to provide you with an overview of the expenses WorkCenter sections, pages, and folders. And then I will walk you through the key changes to the expense report page. After that, I will then log in as an approver. We'll look at the new approvals tile. We'll navigate back to the WorkCenter to see how the approval section displays. And then we'll close out my part of the demo with some overview information about the delegations tile, and I will create a delegation request. So without further ado, let's jump right in. I'm going to click on the EX WorkCenter tile. Give that a moment to come up. And here you have the expenses WorkCenter. So what I want to do now is just go over some overview information. Many of you, this is your first time seeing this, so I want to call out some key terminology that we use and then go through the structure of what you'll see in the expenses WorkCenter. The left side of the WorkCenter, where you see my mouse now, this is called the navigation panel, and it controls what displays on the right, which is the transaction panel. The navigation panel includes sections, which are these words that you see here in this orangish brownish color. And under those sections are expandable folders. The folders contain pages, which allow you to access items requiring attention, or quick access to frequently used pages, queries, and reports. The Expenses Work Center contains 6 sections, which are My Work, My Approvals, My Insights, Links, Queries, and Reports/Processes. Please note, again, the job aid overview of the Cardinal Financials Work Centers is going to be your go-to resource, and what you see in the Work Center will vary based on your security roles, and the job aid will actually break that out for you so that you know, based on your security role, what you will see in the Work Center. So now let's go through each of these 6 sections in a little bit more detail, starting with My Work. The My Work section defaults as expanded when you access the Work Center, and the folder, which you see here on hold, pending approvals, displays. And you can see travel authorizations, cash advance, and expense report. What it does, and you'll see an overall count. If we have any of these pending transactions out there, you'll see those with a number displayed. So in this example, we can see that there are 2 travel authorizations and there are 4 expense reports. These are based on the employee, so whoever is logged in, right, your security access, your default filters. If you have access to multiple business units, this total will reflect the total for all of those business units. Also, please note that as an expenses employee, you can view these transactions and counts, but you are unable to remove holds or approve transactions. So this information here is informational. These numbers are updated based on the approvers taking approval action and removing holds. I do want to call out a quick note. If you have the expense coordinator or the expenses approval roles, you will see an additional folder here in this section called Exceptions. That folder displays cash advances that have been paid but not associated with an expense report or paid back to the agency. So let's go down next to the My Approval section. All employees will have this particular My Approval section in your Expenses Work Center, whether you have approval role or not. However, this section will not contain any information if you are not an approver. Notice here that I'm logged in as an expenses employee, and you can see that there's a folder here, but you see that there's nothing available under that particular folder. When I log in later as an approver, I'll come back into the Work Center so that you can see how this displays. While I'm here, I want to call out this little tab that you see on the navigation panel. This tab is a great feature in the Work Center because, as you know, in Cardinal, some of the pages are pretty large pages. So what you can do with this tab is literally click the tab, and what it does is it now contracts the navigation panel and it expands your transaction panel so that you can see more information. So this is useful for those pages where there's a lot of information. So again, you can use it to click back and forth as you need to. Let's go down next to the Insights section. My Insights, I'm going to go ahead and expand that folder. And there's one folder, Financial Insights, and then you see one page, Expense Insights. So this particular section, I'm going to click that. I'm going to give it a moment here to load. And what this does is this actually takes us to the Insights, which is a new tool that's available. And it opens up the Employee Expenses Insights page, which is a dashboard of expense-related data. And it includes things like visualizations for expense report information. Dan Walsh, who's another member of the training team, he will be coming up a little bit later, and he's going to provide an overview and a demo of this information. All right, let's go down. I'm going to contract some of this so we can slide down, and we're going to expand the links folder, or a links section. So the links section contains 4 folders. Let me scroll down a little bit so you can see these. And they are cash advances, travel authorization, expense report, and other links. The 3 expense transaction folders contain pages that allow you to do various things, such as create, modify, print, and delete expense transactions, to name a few. So I am going to go ahead and click on the travel authorization folder, to expand that and kind of scroll down so you can see that. And then if I wanted to create a travel authorization, I would click on that page. And you saw this on this screen a little earlier, right? We had a screenshot of this. This is the travel authorization page. So then I could go ahead and actually complete and enter my travel authorization, again, right in the WorkCenter. From there, I'm going to contract this down so we can continue down the page. And next is the queries section. So the queries section contains two folders, expenses and employee. So I'm going to expand the expenses folder, scroll down, so you can see some of the queries that are listed here. And what's great about this feature is I can actually access and run these queries that are listed here right in the WorkCenter. So let me click on one. Expenses in process. This is one that you probably run pretty frequently. If you notice, once I click on that query, look what happens. Right in the transaction panel, that query displays. So what could I do? I could just go in and enter my information and run that query right here in the WorkCenter. So what you may be thinking right now is, wow, that's a pretty long list, but there are some other queries, Angela, that I run, and I don't see those queries there. So would I have to leave the WorkCenter? Well, the answer to that is no. WorkCenters have you covered. If there's a query that you want to run and you don't see it there, what you would do is come into your WorkCenter, expand the links section. All the way at the bottom is our other links folder. We'll expand that folder, come down and click Query Viewer. And then I'm going to type in V_AP because that's what our AP and expense queries are. And once I click that search, and it's going to scroll down here, you can see that you have full access to all of the queries. Here are a list of queries. I could come right into the WorkCenter here and run those queries. So now I'm going to click back on my tab so that I can see my navigation panel. And we're going to come all the way down to the bottom. Let me close up some of these others. And we're going to come down to the reports/processes. When I expand the reports/processes, you see one folder, which is the print reports folder. So I'm going to expand that folder. Now, even though this section is called reports/processes, for expenses, there are no processes in this section. It contains the most frequently run reports, and there's this one folder that I've expanded. And again, just like we saw with our queries, if I wanted to run one of these or print one of these, let's click Employee Average Expenses. You can see that I can come into this particular run control page. I can search for my run control parameters, select it, and then I'd be able to actually run my report, again, right here in the WorkCenter. So with that, that's kind of our overview of the actual WorkCenter. Now, here's the moment that I know that you've been waiting for. You're like, that's fine and dandy, Angela, but let's look at that expense report. Let's look at those changes. So let me close out some of this other options here. And now what we're going to do is we're going to really dig in and get into a little bit more detail about the changes to the expense report. So what you would do is when you log into Cardinal and you come to the expense WorkCenter, we're now going to go through the process of looking at an expense report. So what you would do is you're going to expand the links section. Then under that, you're going to expand the expense report folder. And then we're going to select the option for Create Expense Report. The first page that displays, as you can see, is an employee search page. Right here, if you are creating an expense report for yourself, you can see Create for Self. I can click that button and I can create that expense report for myself. However, in this example, as a proxy, I'm going to create for someone else. So what you'll see is a listing of employees here. I want to call out a couple of things here. You must be set up as a proxy in order to enter transactions for other employees. This page will only display employees for whom you are set up as a proxy. So if you come to this page and an employee is not listed, you would need to work with your agency COVA expenses processor for statewide or the expense authorized proxy for VDOT and make sure that you're set up as a proxy for that employee. Can't stress enough, if you are not set up as a proxy for an employee, you will not be able to enter expense transactions. So in this example, I'm going to select coffee cup. And now when I select coffee cup, what you see here is the header section. This was what we had a screenshot of earlier. So now that I'm here on coffee cup, let's go through some more details of some of what we saw on the slide. The first one here was this related actions option. So I'm going to click on that related actions. And what you'll notice is an actions menu displays. And there are two options here. I can change the employee, and there's also user defaults. So if I went down my list and let's say I had selected the wrong employee, let's say I didn't really want to enter one for coffee cup. I'm looking at my paperwork and I go, oh no, I should be entering one for bell pepper. I'm going to select change employee. You can see my search list comes back, and obviously I can enter their name if it doesn't display. In this case, bell pepper is here, so I'm going to select bell pepper. And just that easily, the page updates, and now I'm entering my expense report for bell pepper. The other option, which is user defaults, this would open the employee profile page, but that would require you to have the applicable security roles to access it. If you don't have the applicable security roles, you would not be able to access the employee profile. All right, let's go over to the right-hand side of the page. And I'm going to click these more actions dots here. These three dots contain two options. They are my expense reports and travel authorization. The My Expense Reports is a new page which displays a listing of expense reports that have not been approved, and it breaks them out into various statuses. This page is going to be shown to you a little bit later in the demo, so hold tight for that. The travel authorization option is used when you want to copy an expense report from an approved travel authorization. It opens the travel authorization search page so that you can access approved travel authorizations for this specific employee, and then you would be able to copy that travel authorization right into the expense report. Now let's come down to the general information section. This should look familiar. These are the same fields that we have today: business purpose, description, default location, reference, and even your ability to attach receipts. All of those are still there, and there's no change in the upgrade to how you're doing that today. But I do want to call out the accounting defaults options. So let me click this one right here. So it's giving me a little pop-up message. I'm going to click OK on that. We'll come back and I'll fill out more information in the header in just a moment. Now let's talk about this option. This particular feature, which is called accounting defaults, is located in the actions menu. Now in the upgrade, it's located right here on the header page. You will use this particular section when you want to update the charge distribution for the entire expense report. For example, let's say your expenses are being charged to a project, or if you need to split the funding, you're splitting it between two departments. So instead of you having to key each individual line and enter the distribution, clicking here and entering the distribution here, these lines will default into your expense types. The only thing that you can see that's not here is the account code. And the account code, as it does today, is based on the expense type. So whether that's meals or mileage, etc. I'm going to click done, come out of this because we're not going to make any changes. And then at the bottom, I want to call your attention to the expense report actions drop-down menu. I'm going to click that, and you can see that there are some options here. You can add your expense lines. Just like in today's world, the add from my wallet is not used in Cardinal at this time. If you are a fan of Quick Fill and you use that today, you can certainly access that here. Or if you want to copy this expense report based on another expense report, you can do that here. So for example, if you have a person and they have a regular meeting, you can certainly copy that from a previous expense report. Now give me a moment. What I'm going to need to do is fill in these fields so that we can continue on. So for this example, I'm going to just select my business purpose as a conference. I'm going to type in that this is a project management conference. My location for this one, and again, these are all fields that you guys should be familiar with because it's exactly as they are today. We're going to say the conference is in Virginia Beach. I don't need to fill out anything for this particular one for my reference. And now I'm going to come down and I'm going to add expense lines. Now, before I click that, I want you to pay attention at the top of the screen. So I'm going to add expense lines. It's already telling me it's been changed. And you can see that just for a moment, I don't know how many of you saw that, my expense report number was generated. So you may be thinking, Angela, was I expected to remember that or hold on to it? No. Once you save or submit your expense report, it'll still be there. But just to show you, if you went back here, right here where it says PM conference, if I hover here, you see it says general information. I'm going to click that. And what it does is it brings me right back to my header. And there you can see your expense report number. Just wanted you to be aware of that. So I'm going to click back on update details so that we can get into a little bit more information about entering expense lines. Now that we're on the expense entry page, you can see right now this looks very different than it does today. So to the left is where when we enter expense lines, you'll see those populate here. And over on the right, this section, this is where we'll enter the details for our expense. So let's go through. I'm going to enter some expense details. And for this example, I'm going to enter all meals travel day. So let's go over here. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to select the date of that expense. So we're going to go in, we can use our calendar or we can key in the date again, just as you do today. And we're going to say that this is from this past Tuesday, August the 11th. Next, I'm going to click on the expense type again, just like today is where you would select that. But notice that there's something a little different here. You see a frequently used and an all types tab. So what happens is when you first start entering an expense transaction for an employee, you're just going to see all types. The frequently used will not have anything loaded. However, as you enter expense transactions for an employee, those frequently used options will display here. And what's great about that is it saves you a little time from having to scroll through the all types. We're doing all meals travel day. So I'm going to just select it here from my frequently used, but just to show you, go over here, you can see all of the expense types, just kind of scrolling down so you can see that they are available. Go over here, we're going to choose all meals travel day. Again, a lot of this entry is the same as what you do today. We are required to have a description. For purposes of my demo, I'm just going to type in all meals. And here's our favorite field, payment. And just like in today's world, there's one option, which is check. And also, just like in the current system, you can set this up on the employee profile so that it defaults in, and that way you would not have to enter this. That's a great time saver. Keep that in mind. Because I'm entering in all meals travel day, I am not going to actually update the amount for this particular expense type. Again, just as you do today, you'd leave that. We'd come down here, you can see billable, you can see the expense location of Virginia Beach did default in. And just like in today's world, I have to choose the 0 to 999 days, and then my amount for my all meals travel day populates. Again, no change from today. Per diem deductions is not used in Cardinal. And accounting, if I click here, this is the accounting that's specifically for this expense type. Remember on the header, if I change it there, it populates the entire expense report. However, if I come into this particular line and I make any updates to any of these chart fields, it would only apply to that line. So I'm going to cancel out of that. Coming down, there's a personal expense toggle. This personal expense toggle replaces today's non-reimbursable checkbox. So if an expense is direct billed or prepaid, you would actually click that toggle. And what it does is by clicking that toggle, while it will be in the total amount of your expense report, it will not be in the amount that would be reimbursed to that employee. And so once I've completed everything, and then you have the no receipt, again, that's not different than today. So notice that as I completed that expense line, look what happened to the left. That information now has populated over on the left. So this looks very different than it does today. But as you can see, a lot of the fields, the way it functions, is still like today. So now that I've entered this particular expense line, I want to show you an expense type that has a change that has been made to it. So I'm going to add an expense line. And to do that, I will come over to the left menu and click the Add button. When I click the Add button, you can see that my new expense line is added here. And what I'm going to do in this particular line, there is a new feature with the upgrade as it relates to mileage, specifically a new GPS option. Before I show you this option, I want to be clear. You do not have to use this option. You can still enter your miles in as you do today. This option, though, is a new feature, so you can choose to use it. So let me just show you through this demo how we would use that feature. Again, I would select my date. For this one, I am going to use personal mileage cost justified, which also happens to be in my frequently used. From there, I'm required to put in a description. And so I'm going to put in here round trip mileage. And now let's see the new GPS feature in action. So what you would do is you would enter your starting point. So I work at Paragon Place, so I'm going to enter that in. So give me just a moment while I enter in my address. And as you notice, as I was keying it, it was pulling in those addresses, right? So I can select it. Then I'm going to enter my ending point. So for this example, I'm going to say that I'm going to the convention center down in Virginia Beach. So I have looked up that address. I'm going to enter that address in. So now that I've entered my starting point and my end point, you can see that there's a toggle here. So if it's one way, I wouldn't click that toggle. But in this example, I said it was round trip. So I'm going to click that round trip toggle. And now I'm going to click the Calculate GPS Distance button. And notice it calculated my miles and it populated that in. And it also highlighted other required fields that I have not completed in red, letting me know I have additional things that need to be completed. So here I'm going to come down and choose check. Then it's asking me my originating location. Again, this is no different than what you guys do today, right? So I can search and I can say here, I'm starting out in Richmond and select that. Once again, everything else is the same. So once I have entered in my information for my trip, and again, I'm going to stress, I use the GPS feature. However, you don't have to. The system does allow you to continue to enter your specific miles as you do today. I want to show you one more important feature when it comes to expense reports. And that is, if you've been to class with me or Dan, we talk about the copy feature. It is the #1 way to save you a lot of time when you are entering expense transactions and you're having to enter the same one for multiple days. That new copy feature now is here in our left-hand menu. You're going to have to come up to where it says More. You guys see that More button? I'm going to click that. And this is where I find my copy feature. Now, what I can do here is I can select if I only wanted to copy one line, or I can click the Select All box to select all of my lines. So again, it will vary depending on what we need to do. But for purposes of the demo, I click Select All. And then what you'll do is you'll click the Copy button. Once you click the Copy button, this page should look familiar, even though we have a toggles instead of maybe some indicators, but basically the same. So what you do is you select your beginning and end date that you want to copy these for. In this example, if I wanted to copy it for the same date, again, just like in today's world, no different. Notice that the include weekends and include holiday toggles automatically default to being turned on. In this example, because I'm not traveling over a holiday or weekend, it really doesn't matter if those are clicked just like it wouldn't today. but you can certainly toggle those off. And at the bottom, you can see it will always show you which rows you have selected to copy. Once I've filled out the information, I click Done. And there you have it. You can see that my 2 rows have now copied for the August 12th date that I selected. So let's continue on with the expense report and walk through the remaining part of the process. So we're going to pretend that I've entered in everything for this particular expense report. And now I'm going to click the Review and Submit button. Now my expense report summary page displays. And a couple of things I'll call out here. You can see again, there's my report ID. Also, the system will recognize if I have a cash advance or a travel authorization that hasn't been associated with an expense report. It'll call that out here. It doesn't mean that you have to attach it or include it, but it's just a call out there for your reference. So if there was something I forgot, you can click the Update Details and go back and add any additional lines as needed. Going to go back to Review and Submit. And once everything looks good, now I'm going to click the Submit button. You're familiar with getting your Submit confirmation message. So here it is, and I'm going to click Submit, that I'm ready to submit it. Now, earlier I mentioned this My Expense Reports page. So now that I have actually submitted my expense report, what happens, or I should say the one for Bell Pepper, what happens is the system now brings me to Bell Pepper's My Expense Reports page. And remember I shared it has expense reports that have not been approved in various statuses. We can see returned. Returned are expense reports that the approver reviewed and they put a comment on and sent them back for updates. Not submitted, expense reports that were saved for later. Awaiting approval, that's where my expense reports are that have been submitted and have not been approved. And if you notice, the one we just entered is here at the top. Pending payment, that's indicating that those transactions have been approved and they're waiting to be paid. And then there's this View All option. So if I click View All, I can see all of the statuses. Or I can select a specific status, click Returned. And what you'll notice here is if an expense report is sent back by the approver, that approver is required to enter comments. And I can see right here the comment that the registration fee needed to be updated. So I could access that expense report right here and make the updates. Again, all right here in the WorkCenter. So that concludes what I wanted to cover for this part of the demo for our expense processors. Now I'm going to log out and I want to log in as an approver so that we can look at some of the great new features for our approvers. Now I'm logged in as an expense approver. So let's talk about what I'm going to cover now. For this portion of the demo, I am going to provide an overview of the approvals tile and demonstrate how to access an expense report for approval so you can see what that looks like. We're going to then navigate to the EX WorkCenter so that you can see the My Approval section. And then I will close out my portion of this presentation with a demo of the Delegations tile and creating a delegation request. As noted earlier, we are in a training environment. We're using mock and staged data. All right, so now I've logged in as an approver, and now you can see that there's an approvals tile. If you notice here that there's a count right here on the tile of 13, that's telling me the total number of items that I have that are waiting approval. So I'm going to click the approvals tile. And I can see that I have a mix of transactions. So this particular approver has some expense reports, journal entry, travel authorizations, and even a voucher. Again, this is based on your security access. So if you are an approver for all these particular actions, those would all show here in your approvals tile, because this approvals tile is a replacement of today's work list. So today you're used to clicking on the work list. in tomorrow's world, after the upgrade, you'll use the approvals tile. Please note that this is only for transactions that route through workflow. Transactions that do not go through workflow routing would not display here. So let's click on expense reports. This is all about the expense work center, and we're talking about expenses today. So let's look at what's available here. Now you can see, as an approver, I can see a listing of my 5 expense reports that require approval. If I was ready to approve, what I would do is I would click on, and I'll just choose one of these. I click on my particular expense report, and now the expense report displays. I'm going to scroll down so you can get a sense of what's in the expense report. I can also access expense details by clicking the expense details link, and it carries me right over to the expense report. You guys just watched me demo this. So that approver would be able to click the view details, look at the details of the expense report. Now, to get back to the approvals page, you would have to click this back arrow that's here in your header. And then if you reviewed everything and everything looks good, you could go ahead and click the approve button. Just like in today's world, remember, there's no change in functionality. If Budget Check has not run, you can manually run Budget Check, just as you do today. Run that process, and then once manual Budget Check has been run, you can come out and you could approve the transaction. Just wanted you to be able to see how that shows up. So now I'm going to click the back arrow because I'm going to come out of the approvals tile, and now I want to come down to the expense or EX Work Center. So now you're looking at the expense work center from the approval view. And remember, I shared with you that for approvers, there was this additional folder of exceptions. You can see that here in the work center. You can also see where it says My Approvals. It has broken it out by travel authorization, cash advance, or expense report. So I could click on these and go through my process to approve those transactions. And then at the bottom of the My Approvals, there is a delegation of authority page. Now, this page that's here would allow you to review and approve requests that have come to you where someone is requesting you to serve as their delegate. So with that in mind, that's a great transition over to looking at the delegations tile. So I'm going to click the home button. We're going to come back out to the Cardinal Financials homepage. And now we're going to come and look at the delegations tile. I'm going to click the delegations tile. And just like you saw on the slide that's in the deck, you saw that there was these 3 additional tiles that displayed when I click the delegations tile. So we have the create delegation requests, my delegates, and my delegated authorities. So before I go into my demo, let me go over a little bit of information. Just like in the current system, approvers can delegate their approval authority to another approver, and we refer to that person as a delegate. An approver can only delegate approval authority to a user if they are within the same business unit, right? They have that same business unit access, and they have the same approval roles for the specific transactions being delegated. When a delegation request is submitted, the delegate will receive an email indicating a delegation request has been sent. Now I'm going to demo the process for creating a delegation request. Please note that anything that I demonstrate or have demonstrated thus far will be detailed in job aids that will be available. So I don't want you to be concerned that you're like, what am I going to do? Information will be there for you day one, step by step. So these 3 tiles, as a reminder, the create delegation request, that's where you actually enter and create a request that will go to another approver. The My Delegates is used to track and review requests that you have assigned to other approvers. And the My Delegated Authorities tile is used to view transactions delegated to you by another approver. So let's go ahead and click the Create Delegation Request tile. Now, A quick reminder about delegations. We had this noted earlier. This can be done not only on a computer, but on a mobile device as well. So on this page, what I love about it is it tells you here are your 4 steps right here in the header section. So we're going to start off, and I'm going to go ahead and create a delegation request. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to enter your start and your end dates. Notice the start date defaults to today's date. I'm going to go ahead and click that. And I'm going to say, I am going to be out of office on the 24th through the 25th next week, taking some vacation time. Notice that this comment box, it has an asterisk, which means it is a required field. Please be sure that when you enter information here, that it's not confidential information. I'm just going to put that I'm going to be on vacation. Once I've entered that, I'm going to come up to the right and click my next button. Now I'm on step 2, which is where I will add my delegate. Okay, this is who I'm asking to handle my transactions while I am out on vacation. So when I come here, I'm going to click the Add Delegate button. And then there's a place for me to do a search for the user ID. So you may be thinking at this point, well, Angela, what if I don't know the user ID? You can certainly use the lookup to search for the employee. And the search includes things like the employee's name, their employee ID, or even their email address. Only employees with the business unit approval access will display. For this particular scenario, it's kind of like the cooking show. I already know who I want to send this to. So give me a moment. I'm going to enter in that person's ID. And then once I've done that, I'm going to click the Done button. And now you see that the delegate that I have selected is Racecar. Racecar's email address displays here, but you notice that there is no phone information. This information is pulled from the user profile that is set up in Cardinal. So no phone number will display at this time. Another point I want to stress, you can, and hopefully this will make you happy, delegate the same transaction to more than one approver. What you would need to do is you would have to repeat the process that I'm demonstrating now for each individual additional approver. So even though you can only do it one at a time, you can still go in and delegate your transactions to more than one approver. After I have selected my particular delegate, I'm going to click the next button. And you can notice here that it also has that previous button. We're human, we make mistakes. You might say, oh, I need to go back. And you can simply click that previous button to go back and make any updates. Now I'm on the transaction, step 3 of 4. This is where I'm going to select the particular transactions that I want Racecar to handle for me. What you see listed here would be the transactions that Racecar can handle on my behalf. Now, for this example, I can certainly select all, or I can select specific transactions for Racecar. So for me, I'm going to select just my expense transactions. So I want Racecar to handle travel authorizations, cash advances, and expense reports. So I'm going to select those transactions and click the next button. Now I'm on the final step, step 4, which is review and submit. So this is my opportunity to review my start and end dates, my comment, who I've selected as a delegate, and what transactions I'm delegating. If all looks well, I just click submit. And now it brings me back to my 3 tiles. I'm going to click on the My Delegates tile. And when I click on this tile, you can see that there are some different statuses. I can see if I have any type of active, etc. So active, accepted, rejected, revoked, submitted, and ended. For purposes of my demo, I want to look specifically at the submitted request because I just submitted a request to Racecar. And you can see there's my request for the 24th and the 25th for Racecar. So with that, that concludes this part of the webinar where I wanted to show you the Expenses WorkCenter, walk you through the expense report page and the changes there. We were able to log in as an approver, and we were able to look at the approvals tile, get a little sneak peek into the process for approving a transaction. We went into the Work Center, we looked at the My Approvals section, and we also looked at the Delegations tile. We covered a lot. While I know the upgrade brings change that includes the Work Centers along with some of these things that I have demonstrated today, I really want to encourage you that these changes are designed to help you get your work done more efficiently. So like Kate shared in the video, she said, hey, it would be great to have a one-stop location to get most of your tasks done. The Work Centers does provide that. But the session is not over yet. I'm going to pass this back to Dana for a little Q&A, and then Dan will be coming to present an overview of the expenses insights, which I know that you won't want to miss.
Thanks, Angela. Yeah, let's tackle some of the questions and comments from the chat. I know that Jeevan was busily answering most of the questions, but we did get one question about, is it possible to copy an expense report to another employee, like in the case of multiple employees attending the same hotel and conference? And we had a follow-up to that when it was specifically, if you are a proxy for multiple employees, can you copy an expense report to another employee?
No, when you're on one employee profile, you will not be able to see other employee expenses.
Okay, so even if you're a proxy, only from same employee, but not from one employee to another. Okay, next question. Does the expense report only process to the default funding program on the employee profile?
The default shortcuts will be defaulted into the expense report, but they can change, which is the same functionality they have today. So
Okay.
changes for that.
Great. Is there an attachment link so we can upload the travel expense reimbursement voucher?
Like I mentioned, through the modified travel expenses, travel authorizations, you can copy the travel authorizations into the expense report if that's what the user had.
Then what we had was a question and a couple of follow-ups about deducting daily commute miles. And I think it was specifically related to that kind of cool new GPS feature. But I believe even in the upgraded system, if you have to deduct daily commute miles, you have to do it manually. The GPS feature will not account for that. So you need to follow the travel guidelines for doing that and deduct them manually from the calculation. Let me see. I have to scroll through them. Can we still view prior transactions for each employee?
Yes, but you had to be a proxy to view, to do any transactions, you had to be proxy.
All right. We've had some questions about reassigning expenses. Shrivanti?
You will still be reassigning the expense report just like you do in the current world. The reassignment of an expense report functionality does not change, but for delegation, you are planning for a vacation, and if you want to delegate your approval workflows to a delegate or any other person, then delegation is the functionality that will be new with our upgrade. So you will be using delegation for any planned vacation. After 7 days, the delegation request will get automatically revoked. We suggest delegators to populate the end date.
We have somebody asking where the reassign page is in the new work center.
About being that it's in the under the links.
It's under the links. Okay. We have a question about whether current proxies stay in place.
Yes.
They do stay in place. Another question, do you still have to revoke delegation when you return to work?
If the end date is specified, it will be automatically revoked.
And if they showed up back at work before that end date?
They also will get the work list. So in current world, if they delegate to somebody else, they will not be getting any transactions in their work list. Going forward, if they use the delegations, they will also get the work list notification, so they can approve it either. But if they come back earlier, they can still approve.
All righty. Will job aids be available? Yes, we do have a new delegation job aid that will be available that will walk you through all of this. I'm now going to turn it over to Dan, and he's going to give you a look at the employee expenses dashboard and financials insights.
Hello, everybody. My name is Dan Walsh, and I'm going to walk you through an overview of Cardinal Financial Insights, what it is and how you can use it to make more informed decisions. What is Insights? Insights is an analytical tool to provide fast, interactive, and actionable data visualizations, such as charts, graphs, and data tables, focused on the general ledger, projects, supplier spend analysis, and employee expenses information. Some key benefits include improved decision-making and analytics, which provides rich visual analytics for better understanding of data trends. Intuitive visualization tools include interactive charts and tables, allowing for easy data interpretation and trend identification. And filter capability that will allow users to easily navigate from high-level visualizations to detailed actionable records. Multiple filters are available to allow users to focus on the data elements of interest, such as agency, fund, employee, supplier, account, just to name a few. So to access insights, users must have access to Cardinal Financials. And from the Cardinal Financial homepage, we're going to click the Financial Insights tile. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. I apologize. I was in the meeting a little while ago, but for some reason I got logged out. So from the Cardinal Financials homepage, you can see some of the things we talked about earlier, where you have all these different tiles. And one of the tiles is Financials Insights. So if I click on the Financial Insights tile, 6 additional tiles will populate. And those 6 tiles are General Trend Analysis, State Budget to Actuals, Revenue Budget to Actuals, Budget Project to Actuals, Supplier Spend Analysis, and Employee Expenses. Some important notes. The information on all these tiles, except the Project Budget to Actuals tile, defaults to statewide information. All Insights dashboard, except for the Project Budget to Actuals, will contain 3 fiscal years of data. During July, when year-end close is underway, 4 years of data will display until the previous year is closed. Project Budget to Actuals will have complete information for the life of the project, which in many cases is more than 3 years. Also, the data is updated each night during the nightly batch process. So information entered today will be available in Insights tomorrow. Now, as I mentioned, the first 4 tiles are related to General Ledger. The 5th one is Supplier Spend Analysis related to accounts payable transactions. And the one we're going to focus on today is Employee Expenses. Also note, users can access Insights from the GL, AP, and Expense WorkCenters under My Insights if you have access to WorkCenters. Angela showed this during her Expense WorkCenter demonstration. Again, today we're going to focus specifically on the Employee Expenses tile. As with all of our training, we have a job aid titled Overview of Cardinal Financial Insights that will give much more information to users to understand the tiles and features available. So let's get started with Employee Expenses. I click on that tile. With all of our tiles, we have a standard format across each of the tiles that starts with a high level of the different filters that are available within the particular tile. So here we are on the Expenses Insights tile, and you can see the agency's control filters that you're able to select. So in this particular example for agency control, if I click this 3-dot button up here in the right-hand corner of the control box and click Maximize Panel, I can see all the filters that exist within that particular control box. I see Secretariat, I have Business Unit, and you can see just through Business Unit, you can see not all roughly 260 plus state agencies are listed here. If you did not see an agency business unit number listed here, you would just type it into the filter box. So if I were to type in 15100, it would populate some other filters that exist in this particular control box. We have the business unit description. And when keying description, all of our filters are case sensitive. So it's important to make sure you're typing in the specific name. So for example, if I typed in MED, capital M, and then small letters for ED, I can bring up any business unit that had expenses for the particular fiscal year that I defaulted to. And in expenses just defaults to the current fiscal year when you open up that tile. But you can see I'm bringing up 2 different agencies that have the letters MED in it. If I were to type in capital letters MED, you can see nothing would show up. So again, just want to stress the importance of case sensitivity. When it comes to 2 particular fields, one is an employee expenses, and the other one is in the analysis tile for accounts payable. Both the employee name and the supplier name must be entered in all capital letters. So there I was just kind of demonstrating the power of filters within the agency control box. Another set of filters that we have are fiscal year and accounting period. And then we also have expenses where we can key in the employee ID number or the employee name. And as I mentioned, when I click the drop down for employee name, They're in all capital letters. You also see at the very top here, 5 asterisks. Anything related to 5 asterisks is redacted information, and you may or may not see that within your agency depending on the transactions that were entered. But as we look at our particular expense insights tile, we've got our filters up on top, and let's scroll down. There's 8 different visualizations that exist for insights. And the first one is analysis by secretariat. And if I hover over, it's a bar chart that lists the expenses related to each secretariat. And as I hover over each of those bars, I can see the dollar amounts associated with those. I also have here the analysis by business unit. So here you can see a list of business units. And as I hover over each of the slices of the pie, you can see my legend is changing. So if I hover over business unit 5100, you can see in the legend it's highlighted. And as I continue to move around, you can see the legend changing. Scrolling down a little bit more on the far right-hand side here, third visualization is analysis by business unit and group. You can see here we have our business unit description, business unit name, the total of the expenses, and the different types of expense groups. And something to note here, we always talk about expense types when we're creating an expense transaction. So expense groups have been actually grouped together. So for example, auto expense includes auto expense, rental car, taxi, bus, or shuttle fares, and gasoline. So those 4 specific expense types I just rattled off are all included under auto expense. And that would be this particular column here. Scrolling down, I can see a pie chart by expense type. And then in the middle here, we have by expense group. Continuing to scroll down, far right-hand side is another data table with approved expense reports by employee. And then we'll wrap up with 2 additional data tables. One is a summary by report ID and group. And the last one is going to be a detail for approved reports. So for those of you that attended GL and accounts payable, the look and feel across all the different tiles is consistent. Some things I do want to highlight is we have a search bar. In the search bar, you'll be able to actually key and filter information. As you key and filter information, and when I do some demonstration in just a little bit, you'll see the information populates with whatever filters I enter. So when I opened up this expense insights tile, 2026 defaults. We're in a training environment, and that's the information that we have in our training environment that's defaulting to the current fiscal year. With the filters, I'm able to select through either a drop down and select what I'm looking for, or I can key in the information by just going right into the particular filter. Let's just say I wanted to look at a particular secretariat. So if I click the drop down here and I don't see finance listed, I can come over here to the filter field and type in finance. And as I type in the letters, everything filters out and I can click finance. Once I click a particular filter, you can see at the bottom, these grayed out options where it says apply changes, cancel changes, or clear form are inactivated. But once I key in a particular filter like I did here for finance, I come down here and click apply changes. And all my visualizations on the particular tile will update. So the 8 visualizations are now updated. And what you can also see is underneath the search line, you can see I have fiscal year 2026 and the additional filter that's showing specifically just finance. If I want to get rid of that filter, I can just click the X button here. Or if I go to the control box, I can click the X button in the control box. So I'm just going to go up underneath the search line, click the X button, and the data populates back to whatever filters still remain underneath the search line. In this particular case, it's fiscal year 2026. I also have the ability underneath these pie charts and bar charts, just click on a particular data point. So here I'm looking at natural resources. And if I click on natural resources, all of my visualizations are now updated based on me clicking into that particular bar chart. Same thing would happen if I clicked on a particular pie chart, a piece of the pie chart on any of the other visualizations. I'm going to click the X button up here underneath my search bar. And I'm back to looking at my fiscal year information for 2026 all information updates to statewide information, and you have the ability to then use these filters to hone in and specifically find what you're looking for. Some other features, as you're selecting different filters. So if I just want to select business unit 17100 and I wanted to select business unit 6100, I would scroll down to the bottom once my filters are selected and click apply changes. Those are now added. You also have some things I want to show you. You can click this change all filters. I can remove all the filters just by clicking this change all filters and click remove all. We have a job aid that describes all these additional features underneath the change all filters. Some other things that I want to highlight, again, just removing the filters that I just selected for those two business units. I get brought back to my statewide information. If I'm on a visualization and I click the upper right-hand corner, this options button, I can maximize to the full screen and see that particular visualization. I can go back and minimize it. Again, as I hover over the bar chart lines, I can see the numbers. If I wanted to see a data table associated with those, I can click the options button, click inspect, and another dialog box pops up with the details associated with the information on that bar chart. I can click download CSV. I can either download it in a formatted file or in a raw data file. I'll click formatted, and underneath my downloads, you can see a file pops up. I'll click open file, and what pops up is an Excel spreadsheet with the information associated with that particular visualization that I was looking at which point you're in Excel now, and you can summarize and analyze the data any which way you want. Some other things that you're able to do is underneath your data tables, if we wanted to sort our information, so underneath the total for my analysis by business unit and group, if I click this drop down arrow, I can either sort in ascending or descending order. So if I click sort descending or sort ascending, it would start from lowest to highest. And if I were to sort in descending order, it would go highest to lowest. And I can run those filters on any particular column of information. The other thing I'm able to do, there's this include exclude option. And depending on where you put your mouse on the particular data table or visualization, you may see this. So for here, I'm looking at Department of Social Services. And if I just click this plus button to include, it's now updating all my visualizations based on that one particular line item. And all the visualizations on the tile are now updated. If I scroll up to the top, underneath my search line, you can see that I've selected business unit 76500. Get rid of that, click the X button, and all the visualizations update back to statewide, or whatever's still listed underneath the search button. As I showed you when you were doing an inspect on a bar chart or a pie chart, you also have the ability to download your information from one of the data tables. So up here in the left-hand corner above Report ID, if I want to download the data table to an Excel spreadsheet, I can either download it in raw format or in a formatted file. I'll click Formatted. The Downloads button shows me the file that I just downloaded. I will click Open. And what will pop up is this dialog box that says Convert the data or Don't convert the data. And we're going to say Don't convert the data because we have lots of fields that actually start with preceding zeros. So I'll click Don't convert. And here is another Excel spreadsheet of that data table that I just downloaded to an Excel spreadsheet. And as an accountant, you'd love to get information into a spreadsheet to do any other type of analysis that you want to do. So we've talked about a lot of different features. The thing I want to stress is the commonality across all the different tiles, the different filters. And the filters do differ depending on which tile you're on. The visualizations also change, but you'll become familiar with what those visualizations are as you scroll down and as you're selecting your filters to be updating and downloading information into an Excel spreadsheet. Another thing I did want to mention is the ability to resize. So on this particular data table for analysis by business unit and group, I really can't see the business unit description very well. So if I hover between the two columns of data, just like in Excel, I can widen the column. So as you can see, We just took a look at the expense insights tile. The information that's provided starts off at statewide. You can then use the filters, specifically what you're looking for. So for here, I can come down here and select a specific employee by using the include exclude button. And if I click on that, I then get the data associated with just those transactions for that specific employee. Here, you'll be able to see where things stand as far as what's been approved. So you as an employee that has access to Cardinal Financials can see where the transaction is. Has it been approved? And we know that with expense transactions, whatever approved today gets paid during the next nightly batch process. So in summary, Cardinal Financial Insights gives you the powerful tool to evaluate financial data quickly and intuitively. With drill down capability, flexible filtering, and accessible visualizations. Insights supports better decision-making across agencies and statewide. Right, so some key things when it comes to insights. Using filters, identify what you're looking for. You can start statewide and drill down for employee expenses, your agency, your department. That's one thing I also did not mention, is underneath one of the filters, when you select your business unit, the department fields actually become activated. You can actually start at your agency and then look at specific departments. Whenever you select filters, you click the Apply Changes button, or you can cancel your changes or clear the form. Showed you a couple ways to actually get rid of your filters that you've applied. Always look underneath the search bar to see what your filters are. Using drop downs. Use drop downs to actually find what you're looking for. If it's not listed in the drop down, start typing it in, whether that's the description, whether that's an account number, whether that's an employee ID number. What we are looking for is the search values, right? By just typing in specifically what you're looking for. And the thing I really love about all of the insights tile is the ability to actually export the data to Excel. Because once you get it to Excel, you can do anything that you want with it. And as I mentioned, with supplier information and with employee expense information, you may see some redacted transactions. And those redacted transactions are all based on account information that's entered in that determines whether a transaction will be redacted or not. But the dollar amounts will be there. And with that said, that's your overview of insights. I want to thank everybody for participating in this demonstration today, and we look forward to rolling this out in September. And let's go back to Dana.
Thanks, Dan. We did have just a couple of questions that came in. And so just to clarify, the data defaults to statewide and financials insights, even if I only have access to a few business units.
Yes, that is correct. So for insights, all financial users in Fin have access to see all of the data on the insights dashboard.
And so also similarly, the new VDOT proxy requirement doesn't impact this at all.
That is correct. So you could view all of the employees, whether you're proxy or not. The proxy is just particularly in the expenses area, but not on the dashboard.
Okay, so we're going to do a quick Menti before we give you some next steps. So the next Menti is for insights. Filters are case sensitive. Which two filters must be entered in all caps? Dan must have a little bit of teacher in him, and he wants to see whether you were listening to his presentation. Oh, yes, it looks like people were listening. Yep. The two filters that must be entered in all caps are supplier name and employee name. So next steps. We have added a new upgrade page to the Cardinal website. You'll see the URL here. We have added links to all of our upgrade communications. We've got special videos and infographics out there. All of the recordings and the presentation decks from each of our webinars have been loaded there. We have select job aids out there. If we haven't got it up already, we're putting both the WorkCenters and Insights job aids out there. Those are both new job aids that you'll want to take a look at. But keep checking this page regularly as we continue to add resources. And please, we would really love your feedback and would appreciate you taking a brief survey. You can scan the QR code on the slide to begin. That brings us to the end of today's session. On behalf of everybody at Cardinal, we want to say thank you for taking time out of your busy day to be here with us today. Your engagement is exactly what helps us make our resources as useful as possible for you. We are excited about what's coming in September, and we hope today gave you a clearer picture of what to expect. Take care and hope the rest of your day goes great.